beekeeping, we also another source of income. They can get honey to extract to sustain their family also. We need bees because why? Bees pollinate about probably 70 to 80% of our food income, like mangoes, avocados, kennips, even tomatoes and so on. So we need bees to pollinate our food. No bees, no food.
Through CAN's holistic and sustainable approach to cocoa production in Dominica, the hope is that Dominica can cash in on this growing industry.
This project by CAN, it has an important initiative to begin to look at what we really have, what is the value of what we have, to document it, catalog it, so that the country itself can benefit from this billion-dollar industry that is existing worldwide.
Compared to bulk cocoa, which sells at up to $3,500 per metric ton, the International Cocoa Organization estimated in 2016 that fine flavor cocoa can sell at up to $10,000 per metric ton.
The demand for fine flavor cocoa is increasing all over the world, and I think it places Dominica an advantage, being that we have that resource locally. Most of the cocoa available in Dominica is fine flavor, but we actually have some of the finest flavor that you could find anywhere in the world.
What we try to do in that small project is to set the foundation and to begin to let people understand that cocoa, like every other crop, is science driven. And once you understand the science of the crop, and we can train people, arm them, tool them with the necessary and appropriate knowledge, then we can begin to build a strong and vibrant cocoa industry. We do not want to be just carriers of water and heroes of youth. We would like to have a cocoa industry that is such that we can do product transformation. We can add value to cocoa. There are a range of products that we can get from cocoa. But before you even get to there, you must start with the basics. And what can has to do is to start with the basics.
With the fundamentals in place, this little known island of Dominica could once again return to being a cocoa haven and join the elite group of fine flavor cocoa producing countries, which could provide massive gains for the island. For CAN and Dominica, this is just the beginning. How far the industry goes is up to the people of Dominica. But for now, the future looks bright.
Okay, that was quite a nice video on cocoa. So let's settle down a bit. We're going to begin. Right? Good morning to everyone, and good morning to those online. We had quite a great day yesterday, so much so that at the end of the day, although we went over time and it was 5 o'clock and people did not want to leave, so that was really good. So thanks everybody for being here yesterday, and thanks for coming back. And those online, I know there are some of you who were glued to your computers or from whatever device you were looking. So we thank you for that, and thank you for continuing to be here. What we're doing here is very important, and planning is important. We've got to think of what we need to do to get to the state we need to get to, and we do that for 2 reasons. Because good governance is urgent. And when we get better governance, we want to be in a place where we can move quickly. So beginning to think through those kinds of issues is very important. And as we saw yesterday, there are many among us, those in the diaspora who have come to join us, many Dominicans all over, who have quite a bit of knowledge, who understand some of the challenges that we face in Dominica. And there's enough of us here and abroad with the knowledge. What we need is proper implementation, proper governance. So we've got to prepare for that. And in the meantime, there are some things that are presented that can be used immediately, that we can begin to strategize and work with each other. When Delbert spoke, we saw examples of how civil organizations can begin to do things to affect the nation and to affect our lives. So we've got to think in both these dimensions. Now, there is a gentleman here with us, and let's just acknowledge the presence of God. Father, we thank you and we praise you and we worship you. Thank you for being here with us. Continue to be with us. Bless our land. In Jesus' name. Amen. There's a gentleman here with us. He is, that's not the official program yet, but I have to give him a chance. He is Chef Romeo. And he normally operates in St. Thomas, and he is a Dominican. And he has some things he wants to share with us on agriculture and on processing and so on. So we're going to give him 10 minutes to do that. Since yesterday he wanted to, and I so appreciate his passion. So let's welcome him.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let me extend my deepest and heartfelt thanks to Dr. Thompson and his crew for really organizing this summit to present the vision that he has and to be able to join others who has the same vision. I listened to Dr. Thompson, I listened to Mr. Jones, and of course you fulfill the people. And let me say that after Mr. Thompson and Jones, I was remotivated with my vision. For this reason, I think it was very imperative. It's not loud enough. Yeah. For some reason, I think that it was imperative to take the time, and I don't feel whatever that I contributed is wasted. It was worthwhile to such an important event. I'm so glad to be here. This vision I'm going to share with you today, I've been pondering it for many, many years. As a matter of fact, I came down here, had meetings with the government. We had meetings with some farmers. The government organized the meeting at the old market down on the waterfront. Simmons, Benjo Simmons was there. I'm not sure this one was there yesterday or the one now, when he was at the president. Mr. Harris from Dominica Coast. He was one of the people who was there. And I brought the director for the Small Business Association of the Virgin Islands down here with me, because after he heard what I was saying and how I'm so touched and hurt for what is happening in Dominica when it comes to waste, he decided to come with me and see whether he can talk to the government and give him an idea of what he can do to help for us. And we got the meeting, and all it takes to do is to write him a letter, present their interest, and he will take that to Washington to see whether he can help. That never happened. So I put everything to rest. And after he had formed it, like Jones, I just went crazy. Because what happens when I go to Dominica, which I can like 3 times a year, and I see the farmers struggle to make a dollar. It runs. I'm so getting emotional. Because I take it so deep down. When I go to the supermarket and I see a 20-feet space, like Mr. Thompson was talking about herbs, you don't see the herbs yet. 20-feet space in the supermarket, all you see is herbs. I would like to sprinkle them and keep them fresh. And I said, we shape it with peace and respect and esteem Dominica. And our people is suffering. We're going to be making money from these things. It bothers me. You go all over the States, and what bothers me the most I'm not going to take time to go through all the notes I've made because time is an essence. But I just want to express this. It bothers me when I hear people in diasporas. You live in the States or in other countries, and you can see the magnitude, the volume of vegetables and herbs that has been sold. Dominica, are you crazy? What's wrong with you? It's ridiculous. Because I would have felt the same way if that was the case. But when I come down, I cry. On Monday, I went to Roseau and I said, I have a pickup truck full of pineapples. And I stopped by watching. She said, Snow, why are you watching the sun? I said, what does it to see you struggle to sell a pineapple?
Yeah, true.
When there could be a place. I said, after you struggle to grow this stuff, there should be a place where you can drive on a scale, wait, get a check, and get without pay.
That's right.
I'm not suffering here to steal a pineapple, because before the week is over, that truck of pineapple is spoiled on there. Then you have people that will tell you right now, oh, Dominicans will plant fixation of the ground and stuff like that because they're lazy. And when I tell them, let me tell you something. Unless you don't feel what they're feeling, unless you don't take a pack of lettuce, as simple as a pack of lettuce in your pocket. It's not about when I left Dominica, I go to the Virgin Islands in 1969. I left there as a young farmer. At age 15 years old, me and my stepfather got like 2 acres of land. And when I come to dig that ground for the 12 man, he take 11 as the next one with my new shed. And hand and hand with everybody. I know what agriculture is. I suffered in agriculture. I tell these people that tell me that Americans like to work. You take a pack of lettuce in your hand and you sow it. And when you can get your crop, all 10 o'clock at night in Roseau, you are going to fill the in your hand. And you come and tell the Dominicans you like to work. You know how they're suffering? You know what the present is? You give the hucksters your stuff and they go around and they sell it, they come back and tell you it's spoiled, you pay your compassion until it's spoiled. It's not my business if it's spoiled because I give you my stuff to work. And then it becomes a norm where the farmer accept that. Is anybody saying that? It's painful. And not only today, if farmers are not doing nothing, with all what they go through, all the suffocations because they don't want to plant nothing. Are you serious? These Dominicans used to take bullhead and banana, carry on the head, and to pen over the place, okay, maybe someone will believe this. Are you serious? Because they're frustrated, they're tired. I still need to stop. If I go further, let me say that I wear this shirt here. How many farmers in the house? I wear this shirt here. I wear this shirt that you recognize it. On the behalf of Russians around the world. Because you know what? Without you, I would not have this time as I have it. Without you, I would not be wearing that uniform. Without you, the dinner that we had here some night ago, without you, some would have to bring us chicken and french fries. And we'd still have to take the farmers to produce the chicken and the french fries. So, we have to recognize you and say thank you and appreciate you and continue what you do. Because it's not only about food, because everyone think that farming is about food for your belly, but you're responsible for the health of human beings, you're responsible for nutrition. Now a lot of people sometimes they have an issue with their body, they don't like to explain it because they are willing to know. For me, if I have a health issue, I tell everybody. Because especially now I will not give myself credit and I would not take the benefit of the result to myself when I give it to God. God says that your food and the medicines and the herbs. And the the seasons for the healing of the nation. So again, we talk about the farmer. We grow the herbs, so we don't grow just go wild, but we start to produce it and nurture it. The avocado, we grow it. So I'll give you my story very quickly. I don't have much to tell about myself. All right, but just to benefit everybody, because you might have the same problem. Just to show you how important you, the farmers, are. The role that you play in the life of people. People don't even recognize it. People don't even think about it. But you are so important. The only thing we chefs don't use in a kitchen is water that you don't produce. But everything else, without you, there will not be a kitchen. There will not be a kitchen. I'm standing here today to let you know how great importance and the health that we play in people, the role that we play in people's health. I have kidney function, malfunction. I have a fistula into my arm here. It's been there for over 6 months. I was supposed to be in dialysis for over 6 or 7 months ago. I tell the doctors, not me. I'm not going. And you know what happened standing here? No symptom, not feeling sick, eating much healthy. This is what I get on cilantro. And it talks my body with it. And it talks my own blood. And it talks my own blood. This cilantro, which nobody even knows here, they don't see it at all. Parsley. All this stuff. To show you just quickly how a big role that you plays. I had cancer. That's what the doctor said. I was prostate cancer. There's doctors in Atlanta, Georgia, wanted to give me 2 injections. One, a black guy from African oncologist, questioning what this is for. Is it going to cure it? No. Or it's just going to slow it down. I said, yeah. And next one, protect me from that first injection, because the first injection is my shop my bones. When I go to the dentist to check my bone density, he said, don't use it, because if you use it and you break your bones, you can't heal again. So I'm like, doctor, I tell you, forget about it. You know what happened standing here today? Avocado seeds. I take the avocado seeds, take my own medicine. So let me give you a great job in life. The Cancer Center of America in Atlanta still called me to take out my testicles. Because why? They still have my testicles too active, producing too much testosterone, and it causes the cancer to rise. I said, okay, I'll take out the problem. Mint. I said, Doc, I will bring on my own testosterone. My God says that my health is so therefore I do my research and I treatment. When I went back to New York, and they do a test, the doctor got confused. He said, well, I don't understand if all this information you have from Atlanta. I don't see nothing. So this tells you you're cancer free. So anyway, my time is short. I want you to take a look later on, and I have the display here. The reason why the display is that all these are vegetable that's on the market at present. And if we go into agricultural reform, we have to do this stuff. We have to go. All is in the market, and even much more. Okay? So later on you can question me about what they are. I can tell you about them. Okay, and one thing quickly that I have in mind is that this is not a plan. Because I couldn't have drawn a plan. I'm in a position to draw a food processing plant for Dominica, but just that to help you navigate through my vision, what about I've been thinking. So this is a food processing plant. And my thing was that this is the building right here. Again, not a plan, but just my vision. Okay? Then you have a banana planting, which is bay number 1, bay number 2, ground provision, short-term vegetables, bay number 3. 3, coconut spices, bed number 4. Then you have citrus, mangoes, herbs, dry storage. Now it's surprising that I think that we put a cafeteria, we have an entrepreneurial kitchen, because you have a lot of people here like Sister Lot, who can do things like that. So therefore, that kitchen is for people who can produce stuff. Then you'll be leasing from the corporation that will have this whole plan, and then they will be able to rent space in here, which is all equipped, and whatever they manufacture, it then goes to sold to the plant. So there's just a shop in there.
Thank you so much. So what we could do, 2 things. During the breaks, you could interact with him. He has a nice display there. So let's have some interaction with him, asking questions. But I think 2 important contributions he's making, and I want the record to show their contribution, is again, we mentioned it yesterday, but the importance of the herbs that we have, the importance as a medicine, what they call nutraceuticals, and an opportunity in Dominica we can try to exploit. But it requires some more clinical studies and things of that nature. So let the record show that's an area we need to be building on, as testimonies show. And I think the second important thing, he didn't spend much time on this, but it's a very important point he's making, not so much the graph itself, but the principle behind it. That you realize, for instance, there are many persons doing several things in Dominica. They're processing, and that's great. Some people do moringa, and they process it, and they try things, and so on. But I'm pretty sure maybe each of them operate 1 day a week, or maybe even less. So there's a space, and I remember Baron, I don't know if he's listening, always was very big on this, that there's a space for a multi-purpose processing facility that can facilitate many of our producers until such time as they can grow and grow out of it and so on. Some kind of thing like that, some sort of incubation facility. So let the record show that that's a very important contribution. He have a specific map, but the principle behind it is really what is very important. Right? So thank you very much, Chef Williams. But before we go on, and I'm excited to call soon, I'm really looking forward to hearing the next session, but I wanted to just, I am sorry she's not here again today. Melvina, where is Melvina? Melvina is not here?
It's not here.
Yet. I hope she comes. Oh, okay. Why I said that is because she made a very important observation yesterday. Something she said in passing, and many of us did not get it. But if you hear what she said and compare it to what the guy Henderson said, and Henderson is not here. But you remember when she said she carried sand from wherever? Anybody remember what she said? She carried sand from and put in champagne. Did you all realize the significance of what she said? Well, let me tell you this. Boat Stewart, what's his name of his operation? Sandals has just started, they started in St. Vincent. They opened up operation in St. Vincent. St. Vincent is not known to have white sand beaches and so on. And not even many beaches anyway. But you know, they created a beach. There was a bay area. So the basis of the hotel is beach, right? And they actually created a beach. I'm not sure if they brought the sand in or they crushed the sand. Of course, we can do either or. But the point she's making is this. We have, and the tourism guy was saying that we have black sand beaches and we can market that too. But some of the beaches are story. Who says they have to be story forever? Melvin showed that you could bring sand too, right? So some of these points our people are making are points that we need to recognize. Yes, quickly?
Just an observation. You just said that beach was created in St. Vincent. In Barbados, in Oistins, there was a rocky area there in Oistins, which is now the Miami Beach. This beach was created because I spent a lot of vacation in Barbados, so you can actually tell the difference when there's a hotel there, and it's one of the most popular beaches. They brought the sun to the beach, no rocks there, and very popular. 100 people there every week.
So there are engineering solutions that can be employed that are also sustainable and also help to protect the environment. So that's the important point. Okay, so let's move on with the day's proceedings. Today we are going to do a couple of areas, several areas. First presenter is here and ready, but our first presentation is going to be about the knowledge economy, towards the development of a knowledge-based economy. And we have with us Wisbert. He's a Dominican, of course, but he's based in the Diaspora. We are so happy to have him with us. Welcome.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. You know, I'm not really much of a public speaker. I mean, when Dr. Thompson called me and he asked me to, you know, present, I was kind of like, my initial thought was like, oh no, and then, you know, I've always wanted to persist.
So we are live at the day 2 of the Dominica Economic Revival Summit. You just heard an introduction from Chef Romeo, and now we are on to our next speaker.
Is that better? Yeah. Okay. All right. That's good. All right. So I'm Winsbert Latai. I left Dominica in 1995. So I've been away for almost 30 years, and that's a long time. But I'm always back in Dominica. I come to Dominica sometimes 3 times a year, so, you know, I've never left Dominica. You know, my sister told me that when my name was mentioned, that someone was asking, who's Winsbert? You know, I'm someone who's kind of stayed away from the social media, you know, but it can have consequences sometimes, so I've stayed away from that. Currently reside in Atlanta, like I said. I'm a lead cybersecurity engineer. I've been in IT for almost 20 years, and now into cybersecurity. I've worked for some of the major companies, corporations in the US. Currently, some of the things that I do is work with different various teams to secure environments in terms of cybersecurity. You know, yesterday morning, I was driving up from Paybush, that's where I'm from, and I gave a family, you know, a ride, and there was this young lady, and she was talking to me, and I think she was just about 19 years old, and she told me, can you help me get a remote job? And I was like, wow, you know, it was so kind of ironic that she was asking me that, and I was like, you know, God, there's definitely a reason for that. You know, I'm a very religious guy, so for me, you know, I believe there's a reason for everything. And today I'll be talking about the knowledge-based industry and economy, how to build that. Basically, what is the knowledge-based industry? It's basically an economic system that is built around knowledge. Basically, you know, the knowledge, the skill sets of your people, the knowledge of your people is industry that's actually built on that. The explosion we've seen, you know, in recent years, the explosion of the internet and also, you know, technology have given rise to globalization, which fosters and encourages the working remotely, working from overseas, and that type of stuff. I mean, though I have a full-time job in the US, I'm always here working remotely. I remember when I was in England, that's where I went to first, when I left Dominica. I was working for British Telecom as a technical engineer. And I remember, you know, sitting and troubleshooting issues for people that I was trying to get on the internet. And they would use the dial-up server, and would sit there and they would listen to the dial modem going through. And, you know, and it would take, getting on the internet was hard work. Today, fast forward today, we have fiber optics even at home, right? Up to 100 gigabytes per second. And basically, you connect to the internet, and then here you are. believe that Dominica is really positioned to take advantage of the knowledge-based industry. You know, if there's one thing I want to leave with us, is that the knowledge-based industry is a serious industry. I know we've been used to the traditional means of, industries like agriculture and tourism, and the knowledge-based industry might be new to a number of people, but it's very potent, it's a very real industry, and I pray that God, that when we are done here, that people will realize that's an industry that we can definitely leverage. I believe that we are well positioned to take exploit of those opportunities. The diaspora, if we look at the diaspora, and even people in Dominica, we've seen great achievement in education. I've known a lot of my friends that I went to school. I'm from the north, so guys I went to school with from Portsmouth and that area. Some of those guys are doctors, some of those guys are business people, and they're doing great things. So I believe that the whole notion that Dominicans are lazy, that Dominicans are this and that, I don't buy into that notion. I believe Dominicans are hardworking. Dominicans are very resilient.
Thank you.
Education. I think one of the good things that's happened over the last couple of years or last 10 years is, we see more and more Dominicans being educated. We see, when we check M1 News and we see so many people, boasting of how well they did, and also English language. Again, we'll see how it features into the knowledge-based industry. I remember years ago I was working with this Indian lady on a project, and she literally, she speaks almost American. She spoke very well, and we were kind of exchanging ideas and just trying to find out about each other. And I asked her, how long have you been in the U.S.? And she said, I've only been in the U.S. for a year. And I was like, for a year? And how come you speak so well and all that stuff? And she said, what happens in India is that they build a system where they teach people how to speak proper English, and they teach them how to sound like Americans. And Dominica, the good thing about Dominica, English is our first language. I was speaking to this young lady yesterday, and I was really, really amazed and impressed at the level of, English. So, Dominican, I believe we are well positioned for that. I'll just touch, briefly on some of the companies. Some of them I've worked with for. Some of the companies like EY and Dell and Microsoft, and some of these are pioneers in the IT, outsourcing the IT operations. I remember years back, maybe in the early 2000s, a number of us, when we would call Microsoft, we would be faced with Indian operators, and there was a lot of concern, there was a lot of critics because of the level of English and also the technical skill. But through the years, if you call, you will see a vast improvement, a vast difference in terms of the way that people converse, in terms of the technical skill, and that didn't just happen in a vacuum. And I'll speak about India and the success in the knowledge industry as we go forward. Let's look at 7 steps to building a knowledge-based industry. And I think, a number of speakers have stressed the government involvement and government initiative. And that is a must. For us to get from where we are to where we want to be, the government has to be involved. Government initiative, very important. Sometimes I believe that as Dominicans, we've settled for too little. They build a bridge and we hooray and jump like there's something great. That's what we're meant to do, right? I think the role of the government is to really provide an environment, to really provide, an ecosystem that will allow businesses to strive. Okay? Investment in infrastructure. These are some of the things that government can do. Partner with Digicel and some of the other internet companies to ensure that we have a system that works. Tax deduction and regulation. Regulation is very dear to me. I'm from the Portsmouth area, and during the Ross era, when Ross was doing pretty well, when Ross was in Dominica, I should say, I was part of I invested and I was part of building companies. I had a few friends that I worked with, and one of the things that we all realized how difficult it was to do business in Dominica. I mean, you would bring your business plan and it would just go nowhere. Year in, year out, you would try, and nothing would happen. I believe if we plan to go somewhere, you know, that we have to kind of change that. We have to have regulations that encourages businesses, that allow businesses to strive. Education speaks for itself. Technical parts, supporting ecosystem, and that is very important. And as I mentioned in there, that's one area that I'll expand on. Building an ecosystem. I believe that for too long we've kind of done things haphazardly. We need to put a lot of thought in what we do. We need to build a system. So if, for example, we decide to embark on a knowledge-based industry, we have to put things in place. We have to put these structures in place that will allow those businesses to grow. Say, for example, we have helpdesk support, right? That will include maybe supporting different systems like Linux, system like your Windows system, your infrastructure. Okay, you have that type of system. You provide a service for, say, Dell or Microsoft. What you want to do is not just leave that to strive on its own. But what you do, you build an ecosystem. You build businesses around that will harness the skills and build the skill of your staff. Some of the things that we can do is work on communication, and I'm not trying to be critical, but we know that in Dominica that is one area that I think that needs improvement. Customer service, just to be blunt, communication. I believe we have the aptitude to do it. I just feel it's the culture, the environment that allow us to strive. Soft skills, problem-solving skills. In terms of information technology, we know that most of the young people, especially, they are very versed. I mean, they have smartphones, they have iPads, and they can use the computer. So I don't think that's going to be a long stretch. It's like kind of just. Yeah, I think one of the other ones that I really want to talk about is business incubators. And what that is that, and that again is something else I believe that is very important in Dominica, not just for the knowledge-based industry, but for businesses in a whole, to have incubators where you could have businesses, you could provide. I remember back in the days when I was trying to open businesses, and I was very kind of, a little bit disappointed that there was nothing in place to really encourage the business or to really see where the business is going. And I believe that if we are to take advantage of the knowledge-based industry and build industry, we have to build incubators that will allow those businesses to strive, allow them to gain financing, allow them to build their skill set and that kind of stuff. So. Right, so as I wind down, let's talk about India. There are a few countries that have really taken advantage of the knowledge-based industry, and India is one of them. The industry in India is about 9.3%, almost 10% of the GDP. And that's massive, because a country like India, where there's so much diversity and such a large economy, for 10% of that to come from knowledge-based industry, that's quite a feat. If we look at the percentage, 56% of most of the outsourcing jobs go to India. So India has really kind of put effort into developing the knowledge-based industry. Some of the things that India have done is government initiatives. I spoke about that before. Investment in infrastructure. A supportive ecosystem, education, like I said, cost advantage, entrepreneurship, and innovation. And I just want to stop there for a little bit with entrepreneurship. I'm from the North Portsmouth area, and I think we really suffered a lot from Ross leaving. And one thing I want to tell Dominica, we should never forget what happened with Ross. We should never forget that. Because if we fail to remember that, then, we could repeat it again. There was, I heard that Ross was only about 30% of our GDP around, but for the North, for me, it was literally about 80%. If we look at the North right now, there's absolutely nothing going on right now. So, like I said, in conclusion, entrepreneurship, like I used Ross University. We could see, my dad, pretty much all of our parents were really entrepreneurs in their own right? Some of them, they were taxi drivers, they were agriculturists, they were construction people, and they would, give us good level of lifestyle without really being educated. So we have that spirit, we were born with that, right? And if you look at Ross University in the Portsmouth area, there were a lot of entrepreneurs coming from that area. A lot of people literally became millionaires with the whole system of Ross. So can we really imagine what would happen if we, had the same kind of approach in encouraging the knowledge-based industry? So there's I know that we kind of short on time, but there's two facets to it. There's one facet where, someone could go online right now and get a remote job, and that's fine. But I'm talking about actually building a knowledge-based industry, maybe even having a ministry, dedicated just to that, and building that research and development and all that kind of stuff must go into it. But like I said, there's one thing I really want us to, go with. If you forget everything I said, just one thing is that the knowledge-based industry is a real industry. It's not something that is just, fancy term. It's a real industry. The young people, they're open to that. They love it. And I spoke to a few people, and a lot of them, they ask about remote work. How do you do that? When I let them know that I work remotely. That's always the conversation. And the young people, because of, the smartphones and just being open to YouTube and all that kind of stuff, they are really positioned to receive that. I believe that, as we go forward, and hopefully that's not just going to be just a one-off. Hopefully we can come together as Dominicans, far about and really begin to plan ways of helping Dominica, of developing Dominica. And I think I'll have to stop it right there.
Thank you very much. That was quite good. And he is the first presenter to stay within the time. Right. So what we will do, because we were late today, I will see your hand, I'll take you first, because we were late today again. So rather than do the other session, the breakout sessions, we're not going to do this. We're going to do a general session of interaction with the presenter. So that's what we'll do, recognizing. So but I saw, Thompson comes in a while, but because I saw our gentleman, Isaac, go ahead.
Very quick question. The sector that you're talking about, I don't know much about it, but would you, to what extent, the existing communication companies in Dominica, the cost, etc., might be impacting the ability or to establish businesses?
Well, currently I don't think there's going to be a big cost impact. And the reason why I say that is because currently we do have, I think, a couple call centers that's kind of operating in Dominica, right? And I work from home, and I know there's going to be some more work involved, and that's where the government has to come in. The government has to partner with those telecommunication companies to help them, because the whole thing about it is that if we have a good system that works, then what's going to happen? There's going to be a lot of employment. One of the things that I forget to cover with India is that their employment literally doubles every single year. So there's a lot of benefit involved. So I think when you look at the cost benefit, I think it's going to be worth it. But I think it's a matter of the government partnering with telecommunication companies And I don't think that we're too far away, especially with having companies, call centers operating in Dominica. It's almost the same framework infrastructure that is going to be used, especially from a telecommunication and internet perspective.
Dr. Fontaine.
Okay, good morning everyone, and thanks to Winswood for this. I wanted to make a few points about this, because this particular area of the knowledge-based industry is something that we're going to give lots of attention. A lot of attention. Because I believe that this has the potential to solve a lot of our problems that we have here in Dominica, particularly among the young people. There are lots of opportunities, and for us, as Winslow pointed out, we have a very good communication infrastructure. We have people who speak English, because a lot of those jobs originate from the United States. So the plan is, and I want you to know what we're doing, we're not going to wait until, that's one area we're not going to wait until we get in government. We are working actively to see how we can harness this. And we are putting together this with a small group of Dominicans who know this area, and I've spoken to a couple of them already, who knows how to link up. And we're going to try to get some of those jobs already into Dominica. That is what we're doing. So this is not just talking out of the sky. There are opportunities that are real, that are possible, and we're going to make it happen. This is all about making the impossible possible here in Dominica. And so I want us to think of this as one of the areas we have identified as being able to tackle our growing youth unemployment problem in Dominica. And it is very real, it is very possible, and I'm very happy for someone like Winslow who's already working in the field. We have other Dominicans who are working in this area. And I'm just trying to get that commitment that we can put together a small group that can begin that process, identify the companies that are willing to work with us, and see how we can get that going as quickly as possible.
Oh, you don't need to respond to that.
Just a comment, and thank you for this contribution. I think because it's very good. Oftentimes, it worries me when I see politicians who are supposed to be more of putting policies in place, getting to the technical part of projects and so. And I know that we have expertise, because if we look in this room right there, I show you have people with diverse backgrounds, and that is a sign that we will develop that and be part of the whole knowledge-based economy we're talking about. But I know in the diaspora, we have a number of persons who are trained and have various skills. Don't you think, to avoid the politicians who get into the technical aspects of things, because they should stay in their lane, because it more have to do with policy generation? Don't you think it would be important that we can now list a number of persons who have expertise in various fields in the diaspora, and help that listing to guide government, particularly in Dominica, so that when we formulate our policies in respect to various growth sectors, that they could have a serious input into guiding government to develop those policies. Again, very important. You hear minister talking about geothermal, and your job is to put the necessary policy in place to ensure preservation of the environment for these projects, not necessarily trying to sell it in a technical way. So the person who has the expertise in geothermal would probably guide, so that public-private partnership would be more sort of realized in a sense.
Yeah, I think this is a very important point. You know, just before I came down, I was talking to a friend of mine, a childhood friend of mine, lived in the U.S. for a while, and he's, I think he used to be in the army, but he's very good with logistics and, that kind of stuff. And he was saying that how much he would want to come to Dominica and help Dominica, and for free, And I believe there's a lot of skilled people outside in the diaspora who would be willing to help. But like you said, we would not want, political interference. You know, you want something where you can go to so-so and just say, you know what, so-so is not involved in any politics. You know, even know who he belongs to in terms of political alliance, you know, that type of stuff. So I believe that, you know, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure why the government haven't leveraged that. There's a lot of people out there, you know, that could be, you know, and we could do it in silos, like the IT over here, you know what I'm saying, agriculture over here. And those people would be willing to help. You know, and I just believe that that's great.
Okay. Other questions? Other questions? Oh, Aaron.
Good morning. Just to re-emphasize the point of how we harness our talents of our brothers and sisters overseas. I think the Dominica Academy of Arts and Science attempted to or started the process of recording Dominicans with different talents out of Dominica. And that is absolutely critical. I have a friend who is in the agricultural field. He works in Florida. And he's so passionate about Dominica and wanted to come back because he goes around certifying propagation houses and plants, and a man with over 40, 50 years experience in agriculture, and he just building and dying to come back to an environment where he can contribute to his country without having to be looked upon as being affiliated to any political party, even if he is, but his expertise and his professionalism. And that is what is happening to a lot of our Dominicans. So we have to create an environment where first we are Dominicans, and if we have a talent, if we have a gift, if we have a knowledge and experience, we have gifts, it should be able to be able to be placed to the advantage of Dominica's development without feeling bashed or shyful like, boy, what the man going to say or how the man will check me. We have to move away from that. We have a Dominica to build, and every Dominican must be given an opportunity at the table of development.
All right, that was just a comment. Okay, let's recognize Ito and then Dr. Mitchell. All right, Bernardito.
Thank you. Good morning. Very important topic. I'm also very, very passionate about the knowledge economy. I believe it's the solution to Dominica's problem. But when we think about the knowledge economy, it is a lot broader than IT or necessarily high tech. There are really three major areas that human beings work in, right? We can either work with our hands, we can do service-oriented work like personal services, barbershops and bars and so on. You have to be present to do it. Or you can work with concepts and ideas and symbols. Symbolic analysis. And that is really what the knowledge economy is about. So things like accounting and marketing and all of those things involve manipulating information and knowledge. So all of those very broad areas are also part of the knowledge economy. So the knowledge economy is actually a lot bigger than you may think. In fact, most of the United States is a knowledge economy, not so much manufacturing or personal services. So it's much, much broader than IT per se. So that's how we have to think about it. I think what we need is a revolutionary way of thinking about our country. That we're no longer going to be satisfied to simply work at the low end of economic space. That we're going to move up the ladder to work with knowledge and ideas. We're not going to simply consume technology. We're going to produce technology. And that, though, is a socio-technological problem. It's not just a technological problem. We have to make our people believe and know and see, because we do it all over the world as Dominicans, that we are capable of doing those things. And we're capable of operating in those spaces. And so we have to shift our whole mindset about what Dominica's economy should be. It should be based in that field. Why? Because we're a small country. We're too small really to have an internal economy that works very well. We definitely do have an export economy. But what do we export? We're not very competitive in agricultural products, maybe at the high end, but certainly not at the commodity level. Nor are we going to be competitive manufacturing anything at the level where there's Chinese and so on. So what we really have to focus on is exporting ideas and knowledge to our brains. And if we export those, We get very good incomes into Dominica, which then sustains the local economy. So it has to be a very comprehensive understanding of that. And the biggest challenge to develop not just a knowledge economy, but an innovation economy. Because you need to innovate and create. You don't simply produce commodity knowledge needs neither. You have to be creative and innovative at the cutting edge in AI and artificial intelligence and machine learning, those sort of things, because you don't want to go into coding, for example. That's obsolete. AI is already going to cannibalize that. And so you have to understand at the very deep level what the knowledge economy truly is, where it's going, what's obsolete, what's not. And then you have to have very good technical managers who understand how to manage technology teams and technological ecosystems, because it does not just happen. And we have a lot of social dysfunctions that work against us working in the knowledge economy, like a very flat type of organization. We're very bossy. The Mr. This and the Mr. That, you don't have that in tech. We have a very collegial atmosphere. And there are lots of things like that that we have to think through. So absolutely, the knowledge economy is critical to our development, but it is as a technical thing to develop a knowledge economy as it is to develop a microchip. And so we have to have the right people, the right talent that understands deeply both economics and technology in order to do that. But it is critical because it is a robust economy. The knowledge economy is not destroyed by a hurricane because your infrastructure is in your head.
Good morning, everybody. Two things. We spoke of India and the fact that 6% of the GNP and most of the time you call and help for the computer and you ask where you're talking from. It's India. So they are great. But also, my newfound cousin over there mentioned earlier that Dominica Academy of Arts and Science. Thompson Fountain is also a member of that group. Thompson, who was the
Clayton, Gabriel,
Christian, and
Davidson
as well. We founded DAS 20 years ago. And in 2004, at the request of the Prime Minister, three of us, Davidson, Chinford, Blackburn, and myself, we wrote an 80-page white paper detailing how we would move Dominica to the next step. Clayton Chinford and myself personally have been documents to the Prime Minister. To this day, you talk about harnessing our talent, So we have all this in place. Because, I'm a CPA, I'm a university professor for 41 years, I have my own business. So we have talent. You have Dr. Thompson here, you have Taylor Chili for the renowned botanist. So we handed this document to them in 2004. To this date, they have yet to acknowledge even receipts of the Some of the recommendations we had in there did not involve money. They just involve doing things differently. Okay? And to this date, our own people, we have been disrespected. We have not been acknowledged. And every time you ask, if somebody tells you, oh, the Minister for Diaspora failed to respond to you. How many of times have you had Minister of Diaspora failed to respond? And to this day, 2004, we are in 2004, they have yet to acknowledge, Don, your ideas were wrong. Tell us something. Nothing. So you speak of harnessing our resources, harnessing our talent, and as they say, what is it? The prophet is not honored in his own country. That's exactly. People look at us in the diaspora as a challenge that we are here to compete. We don't compete.
we are all Dominicans. And we want to give, not sell, give our talent and our resources to move our country forward. And I am trying my utmost to be not political, because that doesn't happen. My purpose and my intention is to see my country move forward. That's right. And whatever I can do to do that, I'll support it. Yes. And so are those who are out there. Except that an atmosphere has been created so that we are frowned upon, and who you think you are, you think you know better than everybody else. Well, look, we went out there, we learned, and we are willing to contribute. If you want to challenge us, take our advice, and if you fail, you say, hey, what do you know? But you cannot condemn us or avoid us and then pretend that people don't want to contribute. Let's put it out there so you can know what's going on. And again, I am not being political, I'm just telling you a fact. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just something I wanted to add that, I'm all for Diaspora and the Dominicans working together. I think the relationship is mutual, that Diasporans should not come with an arrogant attitude. I think I've spoken to some people, and that's some of the things that they mentioned, is that we speak down to people as opposed to speaking with them. So I think that, there have to be some type of, mutual respect, coming together. Because to be honest with you, I was blown away by some of the presentation, especially then the seamless, also the agricultural sector, to see the amount of things that's been done there. So Dominicans are very resourceful, they're very smart people, so I believe that Diasporans should come in with an attitude of helping, working together, and not talking down to people.
Okay, thanks very, very much. This was extremely good. And thanks for your interactions on this matter. So thank you very much. Now, Dr. Fontaine made a point, but that's a point we have been making since yesterday. We know governance is an issue, and we've got to get to the point where governance has changed, right? That's right. But there are things we can do. We can begin to change the atmosphere. There are some areas in which we can begin to move. We have been drumming that for a while. I personally have been saying that for quite a while. And I personally have been preparing myself to do that. So until such time as governance change, there are things we're going to do to change our country. We want the diaspora to understand that very carefully, that we have to work together. Okay, one more person?
Yeah, just a comment.
Oh, comment. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Well, we are live, and so the number of us who are here, we can times that how many thousands listening and doing online. So some of the comments, I'll be going through it, very, very much so today. Angelo Allen is listening and watching. He says, Dr. Fontaine is much more inspiring than most people would have imagined. So that's Angelo Allen, the great, is listening and watching. We also have a Wallace Sentinel saying here, you don't have to depend on your affiliation to a political party to make a contribution to your country. And Wallace comes back and says, so why is it you all can participate in the development agenda for Dominica, but you can't vote? Words to that effect. We also have people like Emmanuel Finn watching on, Petra Carbon George, and a number of people watching on and giving their comments. Clarence Warrington as well, and a whole host of others. So folks, what we're doing here is streamlined, and trust me, the feedback out there is commendable. Alright? I just wanted to register that as we're talking.
Thank you, and those of you watching, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on to another very, very important area. This time we will be having an online presentation. It has worked so far very well.
It is now.
Yeah. You ready for it now?
Sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, while we getting ready, but let me just tell you the topic we're going to deal with in the area of renewable energy. The topic will be exploring and harnessing Dominica's renewable energy potential, and that will be presented by Dexter Newton. So we will have him on pretty soon. But it made a very good point that the knowledge economy is broader than just the IT sector, and that's very true. So thanks for that contribution. The IT sector is an important part of it, and in the era of technology, it's changing the way we do business right up, even in agriculture. Every single sector is affected by the new technologies. But on the issue of employment, I guess we often are very interested in the area of employment. How do we employ our people? So the knowledge economy will help to improve efficiency. The IT sector will help to improve efficiency across the board, but also provide some direct opportunities for employment, as our presenter spoke about. But I just wanted to point out, in the case of Jamaica moved, their unemployment moved over the space of a couple of years, but it ended up at about 7% from about 14% in the last, say, 4 years or so, up to 2019. And a lot of that was due to an explosion in business processing operations. That is the IT sector, where you call centers, and they are different levels. They are the lower levels, but they are also the higher levels. They are mostly been in the lower to middle levels. Yeah. So that is definitely an area of opportunity. And as Ito mentioned as well, we can aspire as well to the higher levels. So sometimes we are often in the call centers at the lower levels, but there are opportunities in all the higher levels. Yes, go ahead.
Let me thank Mr. Ito for his contribution. Out of that, I just would like to ask a question. In that sector, it also involves hardware, and in terms of the reality of where Dominica is positioned and frequency of hurricanes and more intense storms, what suggestion does he have in terms of making or securing our hardware that it can be much more robust against the realities of climate change?
Sure, it's a good question.
Okay.
Anyway, it's a good question. It's a very relevant question. My strategy, my suggestion would be to move to cloud computing. You immediately get rid of any localized hardware systems and you move to cloud computing, because cloud computing distributes their processing power all over the world. So even if one center goes down, you immediately route it to Spain, or you route it to China, or you route it to anywhere else. So really you're using virtual resources, you're not using any physical resources on island. Now of course you have to have some sort of backup system on island for security purposes and for some, just to make the thing work. But what you will essentially need to secure only is your data access. And that is much easier to secure than to have hardware, data processing centers, hardware on island. In any event, you don't want to do that anyway, because you have to do a huge capital investment into doing it. If you go to cloud computing, you just buy on demand. So if your business is doing well, you simply purchase more time on those computers located all over the world. If you're not doing as well, you scale back. It's elastic demand. So that would be an immediate strategy you will have to implement.
Thank you very much. Okay. So Jamaica is one example of what can be done, and much more can be done in the higher levels as well. Another good example of in the region is Belize. Belize recently had an explosion in some of these activities, employing quite a bit of folks there. So there are clearly opportunities. That is partly an area, as Thompson said, that we can begin to act on, notwithstanding the government. Although, as the presenter presented, there is need to maximize the industry, there is need for government initiative. And there are various areas, taxing and regulations and education system and all of that. Again, if you look at the education system that's tied, we do not have sufficient technical training. Similar to what was said yesterday, in terms of the construction sector. So education is not just an issue for IT, it's an issue for construction, it's an issue across the board. It's unfortunate that we maybe did not have a presentation from David. No, we didn't ask him, but David, I'm just joking, put me on the spot. But David is our expert in education. And maybe at another time when we get an opportunity to speak about the importance of education, it's key, you know. And when we talk about the knowledge economy, education is key to driving the knowledge economy. So, right, are we ready?
No, we still haven't signed, but I can.
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Fund.
Oh, sorry, this is next day.
So while we wait for Dexter Newton to sign in, okay, he's just signing, so I'll reserve my comment on it. Yeah. All right, he's ready.
So once again, we are
okay, so
of the Dominica Economic Revival Summit. The next presentation will be on
Dexter Newton. Welcome. Can you hear us? Hello, Dexter, can you hear?
Yes, sir. Are you able to hear? You are muted.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. Well, Dexter, welcome. Welcome to the Economic Summit. We give the floor over to you. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, Dexter.
The floor is yours.
Yes. Can you hear me okay? All right, Thompson. Good morning everybody, and I want to say thank you so much for inviting me here to speak with you today. I am truly honored to be able to lend my voice to this discussion on the exploring and harnessing renewable energy potential. Today I hope to have a conversation and treat this as a stakeholders engagement, really a community engagement to get your thoughts on the state of renewable energy development in Dominica and where you see as an audience and as a people where we see renewable energy and how we can continue to move Dominica forward and the region forward in sustainable development. So if you would allow me to share my screen so that I could share the presentation with you. While I do this, just let me know when you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Just give me a confirmation that you're able to see my screen so I can go ahead with that. All right, I'm going to assume that you can see my screen.
Yes.
So today we're talking about renewable energy, and my name is Dexter Newton. I am a energy consultant, currently working with the U.S. Department of Energy, and the thrust here is to see how we can integrate renewable energy into the national grid. So my position at the U.S. Department of Energy is to look to see how we can take technology, leverage technology, and integrate that into the national grid. I must say that today I speak as an individual, not representing the U.S. Department of Energy. I'm speaking to you as a Dominican, born in Naples, raised in Naples, and went to the grammar school. So we're talking sustainable development for Dominica. My presentation will be more biased to deployment, field operations, and system integration, which is where I have focused my career over the past couple of years, so it will be biased from those point of view. So moving ahead, quick agenda, we will just talk briefly about where we are in Dominica as it pertains to sustainable development and renewable energy. where we're going. We'll talk about some grid planning, future use and expansion, how renewable energy and harnessing and exploring renewable energy can impact jobs and the economy. We'll touch a little bit beyond renewables as it relates to resilience and clean transportation, and then we'll open it up for discussion. So a brief overview of the current situation in Dominica. As you can see, the slide is showing that most of our power is coming from diesel generation. In 2022, we had an installed capacity of about 25 megawatts, 18 of that coming from diesel and about 7 megawatts coming from hydro. The firm capacity, which is where the capacity available during normal operation in a dry month, considering hydro, assuming that the largest thermal unit breaks down while another is out for maintenance. So basically, what Dominic does is to say, if we have an issue with some generation, we're going to estimate as to what our firm capacity is, and you can see that we had about almost 50 megawatts coming from diesel and about 3 megawatts coming from hydro, making our total firm capacity about 18 megawatts. As it relates to solar, solar still remains limited deployed. It's limited deployment in Dominica for solar. We do know that we have a very strong interest from folks interested in solar, but we've seen very little deployment in solar. We can talk more about that as to why that is. So continuing the overview of the current situation in Dominica, my map is showing that most of our generation is concentrated around the larger population centers. So you have diesel generation in Fonkole, and also hydro generation in the Trafalgar area, and then we have some diesel as well up in the Portsmouth area. Again, this graph table on the right of your screen is showing that again, most of our power was generated from diesel with hydro. So about 3/4 of our power generated from diesel, and the rest from hydro and small cell generation and energy purchase. So where are we going with renewable energy? Where are we going with the future deployment of technology in Dominica? Currently, I would say the biggest thing right now is we are waiting to see the integration of geothermal into the national grid. As you know, a lot of work has been going on in exploration and the building of the geothermal plant. And there's also work that has to be done in some transmission work in linking the new installation of geothermal installation to the current installations at Fonkole and Portsmouth. So there has to be some transmission line work that would be installed and constructed to link those two installations together. We also know that hydro, solar, wind, and even hydrogen these are all resources that we have in Dominica. We haven't seen much of an expansion in hydro over the past couple years, decades really, since Dominica went into hydro. Wind remains, I would say, underdeveloped. We have one main installation on the east of Dominica at the Rosalie Bay. That wind turbine, about 200 kilowatts, I would say, estimated, between 2 to 300 kilowatts estimated, sustained some damage during Hurricane Maria, a testament to the installation work that was done by the engineering that was able to withstand the hurricane. And I think that's kudos to the installation, the folks who actually did that to withstand that kind of hurricane impact. Some damage would have been expected in the internal parts of the turbine. And the last conversation I had about that turbine was they were waiting to see if they could get someone to actually look at the turbine to see if everything was a go. The last I passed through Rosalie, the bricks were still on at that turbine. and I'm assuming that there are some issues concerning the integration of that into the national grid. Hydrogen, with the development of geothermal in Dominica, hydrogen is positioned to be one of the areas that Dominica can explore, especially as it relates to transportation, and we can talk more about that. Solar, like I said before in my opening statements, still remains underdeveloped in Dominica. We haven't seen a lot of incentives given to folks who are interested in solar, and what we've seen around the world is governments have incentivized the population to get into solar by maybe giving tax breaks and so on. I know Dominica, currently we have an incentive of removing the import duty on solar items coming into the country. So that is an incentive. I believe that import duty is about 23% of the overall cost, and there may be some stipulation as to whether it's a full system or partial system and so on. So, but there are some incentives as it relates to solar in terms of the reduction of importation taxes. So harnessing solar, I believe, from my point of view, it's a low-hanging fruit and something that we certainly can explore more in Dominica as we go forward. And we can talk more about that. Just giving a sound check. Everything good on your end? You can hear me loud and clear? Perfect. All right, so I'll continue. So as we talk about grid planning and the future of energy, those of us who listened to the Prime Minister's address last week, I believe, the news conference, we heard a significant number of projects that are being planned for Dominica. And the question I pose to you is, are we building enough capacity? As it relates to renewable energy to absorb some of those new installation and these new infrastructure projects. You know, the airport is coming on to also power those things up using sustainable energy. And Dominica, as the nature island of the Caribbean, I would say is that, and to be a beacon to the world as to how we can develop our renewable energy and our future power sources sustainably. So, distributed energy resources, we will talk more about that. Basically what that means is to sort of decentralize the power production or put power closer to where people are living. So, as you can recall, after Hurricane Maria, we had quite a bit of damage sustained to our national grid. Our transmission lines went down and we had damages in several areas. So it took a while to get all of those things back. That's not unique to Dominica, of course. Those things takes time to build. And as we go forward into the future, the question we have to ask is, if we are visited by another Hurricane Maria, are we prepared to spend another 6 to 8 to 9, 12 months running fossil fuel generators and not being without power for all this time? So this is a question that I think is very applicable. We need to, as Dominicans, to ask ourselves that question. Of course, this is not a criticism. I think as we seek to develop our country and to sort of position Dominica to the growth that I foresee, Dominica is going to have a tremendous growth. I haven't heard anybody, when I travel and I talk to folks, I've never heard anybody said that they did not like Costa Rica. I've never heard anybody said that they did not enjoy vacationing in Costa Rica. And Dominica is, I would say, probably closest related to Costa Rica and places like St. Lucia in terms of folks looking for vacation places and places to explore. So with that, I would say that we need to start thinking of how are we going to position Dominica as it becomes more known to folks. There is a global trend for folks looking to vacation in places that have sustainable living. We've shown that we can do that. Even as a boy, I remember my parents and my grandparents always having a drum outside catching water. People in California use very fancy terms like rain harvesting and all of that stuff. We've been doing this in Dominica for centuries, really. And now the world is catching up to some of those technologies that we've been doing and practicing as a way of life in Dominica. Our composting. We've known this as a way of life, but now the world is catching up and realizing that that's what we need to do in order to maintain the planet in a way that we want to pass on to our children and pass on to our grandchildren so that they can enjoy nature and enjoy life. So how does sustainable energy and how does renewable energy development, how does that impact jobs and the economy? The availability and the affordability of power remains something that is going to be desirable. Nobody wants to go to a hotel and you have your air conditioning going and then the power goes out and you're left stuck in a room without air conditioning. So we have to understand that those are things that are not luxury, but things that people actually would demand if they come to our shores to vacation. And when we too want to have some comfort, we want to be able to turn on our air conditioning and be comfortable. I heard one of the speakers yesterday spoke about air conditions and the fact that we can build better. Yes, I do agree. We can figure out how to use less air conditioning by designing our buildings better and taking the natural environment into consideration as we design. And that's a question and a discussion for another time. But based on what we have, we will agree that it is nice to have air conditioning. And the affordability of power, as we keep going, I think I've heard talk about the reduction of power, the price of power, and the cost of electricity. I haven't seen gas prices gone down in my years. I have never seen the price of electricity gone down in my years, so I would be a bit skeptical to think that we are going to see a reduction in the cost of energy. I would say that we can develop energy to make it affordable, but I would not hang my hat to think that we're going to see, for example, with the introduction of geothermal onto the national grid, that we'll see a sudden decline in our cost of energy. I remain skeptical on that. I would be curious to hear your views. So moving along, let me just pause here. I don't know if there's any pressing question before we continue the presentation. I would entertain a question if you feel to ask a question at this stage, or we can.
I think it's best to continue, and then you can remain on, and then we'll have a conversation. All right? Yeah. So just continue, and then just hang on for the questions after.
All right, your audio is a little low, but I hope let's just continue.
Okay, so basically, he's saying you can continue and then we'll take the questions afterwards.
All right, sounds good. So one thing I would just like to say in terms of job and the economy as well, we do understand that agriculture will play and will continue to play a critical role in Dominica's development. Sustainable energy is a huge deal as it relates to agro-processing, light manufacturing, or dry houses or packing houses. We should be using the availability of an abundance of sunlight in Dominica to manufacture and to dry and to package our products. I think these are all areas that remain underdeveloped, and we can continue to have discussions as to how we can develop that. The remote work market, I think, is another big deal. I don't know how much we have tapped into that market. this would probably come under tourism or short stay, and it's something that I think we can discuss. But nobody wants to go to work, and in the middle of a meeting like we are having now, you have your power interrupted, and you don't have a backup power system. So in order for us to continue to develop Dominica and continue to invite folks to come to our natural shores to work remotely, we have to understand that infrastructure plays a big part of that, and that has to be developed. So beyond renewables, let's talk about resilience. What is resilience? Resilience is how quickly are we going to be able to bounce back after a weather event, for example. I mentioned that after Hurricane Maria, I know La Plaine, it took about 8 months before the utility company was able to turn power back on in La Plaine. That is too long. I believe we can do better. We understand what we are faced with in this new global climate. We understand that from June, which is we just started June, all the way to September, October, November, we can expect hurricanes to visit our shores. This is something that has happened as long as we know Dominica. So I don't think it's going to change. What we have been hearing, though, is that those storms are going to become high intensity storms, and they may happen more often. Do we bury our heads in the sand and say, hey, last Papa one day for Dominica? Or we can think of how we can make our country more resilient. We can build better. We can introduce rules that are going to withstand hurricanes that are stronger. We can talk about how we can have hurricane shutters so that we can close our homes. We can have bridges that are higher so that we can withstand the pressures of rivers. And then once those weather systems pass through, we're able to bounce back and continue life as usual. Right, so this is our new reality. As an engineer, I don't think I necessarily shy away from the fact that storms are going to be stronger. We're going to be visited with more hurricanes, and this is the new way of life. So we have to start thinking about building resilience and building resilience in the power systems as well. And I mentioned distributed energy resources earlier, and what that really means is to sort of break up where we have our generation. Right now we have 2 generation centers, and I'll just go back to my previous slide. We have most of our generation in the Roseville area and in the Portsmouth area. What distributed generation really means is maybe to split up some of those generation, maybe put something around the La Plaine area, a battery energy storage system, for example, which would be powered and charged. For example, with geothermal energy on stream. We have an installation somewhere in La Plaine, and when the power goes out, we can section out the electric system and power the general area of the southeast. And we can do the same thing in the northeast as well, in central Dominica. We can do this on the west coast, sort of building generation stations that are not so centralized. So in the event of a Hurricane Maria, for example, we can bounce back better. Okay. Now the ODM, I know have been on a push to really educate folks, and I hope that you've heard it before, that their goal is to be able for communities to be self-sustaining for at least 2 weeks after a weather event without outside intervention. That has implications on many fronts, from the side of power generation. We cannot achieve that without distributed energy resources, and that's something that we have to consider. The emergency shelters around the country, are they currently installed or equipped with sustainable power sources? If not, that's something that we have to talk about. And our emergency operating centers as well, are they equipped with renewable energy sources so that when we lose power or we lose the ability to import diesel and gasoline into Dominica, for example, during a weather event, can we repower those shelters and those emergency operating centers locally? The communication broadcast still remains something that is critical in Dominica. I know, for example, on the southeast of the island, once we lose electricity and we lose the broadcasting from DBS radio, for example, we do not have advanced warning systems to let us know that, for example, a storm may be coming in. So when you have weather systems moving from a category 3 to a category 5 in a few hours, how do we tell our folks that they need to seek shelter? They should be moving into emergency shelters if they're not able to be notified. So all of these things come under resilience, and it's a discussion beyond renewables, but it's something that we need to consider. The electrification of transportation. I think Dominica right now, that's probably the transportation sector still depends very heavily on the importation of diesel and gasoline. When we have interruptions in the flow of those supplies, for example, if we have wars in the Middle East, if we have wars that's happening between Ukraine and those areas of the world, and we have interruptions, how do we then continue our own economy as a small island state? So we need to start thinking of electrifying transportation. Most of the larger countries, I think, who actually manufacture automobiles are being mandated. I think 2030 and 2050 are milestone years for all of those manufacturers. So we will see electric vehicles coming into Dominica, whether we want to or not, we will see that. And as of now, I believe it is actually cheaper based on the concessions that are given in the import duties. It's actually cheaper to import an electric vehicle into Dominica than it is to import a traditional vehicle. Now, do we have the infrastructure, the charging infrastructure, etc., to absorb those vehicles? And that's something that we need to talk about as well. The equity and inclusion, what that really means is when we talk about renewable energy and harnessing and exploring renewable energy, we have to think of including everybody. We cannot think of, for example, the larger population centers as it relates to development and not think about folks in the rural areas. We cannot think about heavy manufacturing and not think about rural areas who may have farmers doing their thing and animal husbandry. We have to think of everybody. So in terms of developing renewable energy, we have to think of doing so equitably and including our folks. So I will stop here and take your questions. Hopefully I made some sense, and I'm curious to hear your view.
Okay, thank you very much, there's quite a bit of questions already. I've already raised their hands. Let's start with Dr. Fong. He was the first, that's what I'm calling.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I wanted to catch up very well. I wanted to add a little bit to what you say. Let's see if you can just copy up your volume on your own computer. I think that would help as well.
Okay, I turned up my volume. It's still a little low.
It's still low. Okay, we'll try our best to speak close to the computer so you can hear that. All right, I wanted to make two important points. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, thanks. Yeah. Ron wanted you to know that there are 3 Latin folks in the house watching you, and they were quite impressed with your presentation as well. So thank you very much for that. I wanted to make 2 points at the dinner on Tuesday night. I met a gentleman from Jamaica. He is the head of a renewable energy company. And he made a very important point to me. He told me he's been coming to Dominica for 30 years, off and on for 30 years. And he says, he tells me, if he were to advise me, is to look at the area of renewable energies. Because what we can do for Dominica, he says, if we're able to get renewable energies going in Dominica and can significantly lower the cost of energy, he says Dominica overnight can become a manufacturing hub. Because there are businesses for the Caribbean, because that's the sectors that are running. There are businesses within the Caribbean that are doing manufacturing, and the biggest constraint and the largest cost that most of those companies have is the cost of energy. So that this is a niche that was advised to me, a gentleman who came on Tuesday. So you see, God sending good people our way when we begin to do good things. Another good person that God sent my way, and I would like them to comment on that. Something I had absolutely no idea about. And this is at the time he was the ambassador of Norway to South Sudan. And I started telling him about Dominica, to the point where I think I impressed him so much about Dominica that he actually left South Sudan and came on holiday. He actually left Dominica and came on holidays. He left South Sudan on holidays in Dominica. But he made a very important point to me because he did his research, and as you know, Norway is one of the largest shipbuilding countries in the world. That's where they build most of the cruise ships, the cargo ships, and so on. They build in that country. And he tells me, he made a very important point to me, he tells me he realized that they're developing geothermal energy in Dominica. He says, what he would advise me, because he was very interested in politics, he says, what he would advise me is that we need to focus on hydrogen. Because all those mega ships that are being built today, they run on hydrogen. And not only that, but even those older ships, cargo ships and so on, they are converting those to run on hydrogen. So he said, imagine Dominica, because no other Caribbean country has the same potential as Dominica, because of our renewable, because of our geothermal. Imagine Dominica as the center hub, where you can have a hydro stuff, so that ships running the waters can refuel here in Dominica. So that's something that certainly we'll look at, and I wanted to get Lester's view about hydrogen. And also Lester can explain to us a little bit about this. I never know about that before, I must confess. That was the first I was hearing about hydrogen being a byproduct of geothermal. So you can explain a little bit to us about this hydrogen, but I noticed you pointed out in your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. So as you know, hydrogen is something that has been looked at for quite some time. It sort of was going about very well. I would say in about the early 2000s, and then it sort of dropped off in terms of research and development. And now we've seen a resurgence of work going on in hydrogen. Now, I will confess that I haven't personally done a lot of work in hydrogen, but I know it's a fuel source that is very, very available. It is a byproduct, from my understanding, of geothermal, for example. We can do potable hydrogen, and it's something that we can continue to explore. I know a lot of folks have mixed feelings about the geothermal project going on in Dominica. I think you can have your reservations about maybe how the project is managed, but I'm very excited that we have undertaken geothermal development in Dominica. I believe I was part of a group of folks who presented to the then Prime Minister Pierre Charles way back in 2001, 2002. And, we spoke about geothermal development and what it means for Dominica. So the point I would make is that we have so much that can come from a geothermal development, not just from the initial development of steam turbines and power. From what I've been told, we should be able to get about 7 to 10 megawatts of electricity on stream. What are some of the byproducts of that, and how can we continue to develop that technology? Like you said, Dominica is one of the very few Caribbean countries with that resource, and I think we should continue to look at that. The cruise industry, the ship industry, the transportation industry can all benefit from hydrogen. And it's I would say it's a mature technology. It's something that has been studied for quite some time. And I don't think it would take much for us to go into that area. So that's what I would say in terms of a byproduct and continuing to evolve and develop our geothermal technology. I look forward to how hydrogen would be considered, especially as it relates to the clean transportation industry.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Yes. Good day. Very good presentation, I must say. You seem to be far away, but very much acquainted with what is happening in Dominica. As we speak presently, Dominica is responsible for the generation, transmission, and distribution of electricity. Do you see Dominica, based on the attitude and the culture they have, that they would be so inclined to move away from what they do to probably get into other areas of energy? Because people often talk about competition. And do you envisage let's say for example, a company bringing in, exploring other areas that we have in geothermal right now, but do you envisage that company coming in with a different idea and probably would impact on the low cost of energy? And another area I think that is very important. Where we are gathered right now is a stone's throw away from Galileo. And I've observed this in hamlets, and over the couple of years I've been going there, and I see we have a pronounced, presence of wind, and it may be about 6 months or 7 months in a year you have that intensity of wind. And I found it strange that no one has come up to say whether we're going to do a pilot project in Galileo. If you look at Cold Soufriere down on the north, they again show some, heavy presence of wind as well. Have you been so inclined to at least get into at least zoning or initiate some level of zoning where you can collect data? We always find that the wind is free, the sun is free, so overhead. Hydro, you have, as we develop our water resources deplete and so you may have some challenges there. With geothermal, you have to drill and to get into sort of more technical aspect. But the sun and the wind is available. Can we not get into collecting data around certain areas, strategic areas, and let's talk about equity? That would be so much important to serve probably some of the rural areas. Thank you very much.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you for your question. As it relates to transmission, distribution, and generation, from my understanding, the generation of electricity was sort of loosened up for a couple of years now with the introduction of the Independent Regulatory Commission, the IRC. Folks can now self-generate, for example. So I think the laws have been sort of eased up a bit in terms of who can generate power in Dominica. Dominica still transmits and distributes electricity in Dominica. So that's what I would say. I would say we can have that discussion with the IRC. That is what their mandate is to listen to concerns like what you just raised. We can talk to the IRC and see how can we move those discussions forward. And the IRC is there for you. It is there for me. It is sort of the middleman, the liaison between the utility company and the general public. So that's something that I think we should continue to discuss. As far as it relates to generation. Now, you spoke about wind and sun, wind energy and solar energy. Several studies have actually been done on wind generation in Dominica. I remember I was involved in a study done in Temple, in the north of Dominica, and we did quantify that that area of Dominica was suitable for wind development. We did some work with a French company during that time, and Dr. Thompson Fontaine would recall that. So we have quantified that wind can be developed in Dominica. I'm not sure for the southern part of Dominica where you were mentioning Galeon, but what I would say is wind certainly has been used in Europe and in parts of North America for a number of years now, a number of decades, and it has proven to be a good technology. One of the challenges, though, that we have seen with variable sources of electricity, and when I say variable, you would remember a couple weeks ago we had a solar eclipse. So let's say half of Dominica power was being produced from sunlight, and I don't think we were affected by the eclipse in Dominica, but let's say we were affected by an eclipse and half of our energy was coming from solar. We would have to do a couple of things. We would have to agree that we're going to take a power outage during the eclipse. Not everybody is happy with that. Or we would have to introduce new technology where the current technology right now, it's with synchronous machines. Synchronous machines don't like when you all of a sudden have more load. It's like a balance, right? You have more load than you have supply. It starts doing some very funny things, like slowing down the frequency, which is a little technical, but basically what it means is that your stuff like your refrigerator and your air conditioners, they don't like that, and they will burn. So we have to introduce some more technology. They're called grid forming inverters, where they can sort of model the current grid and keep up. So when you have stuff like wind and solar that are variable, you can then introduce technology that would balance that out. And I think that is something that still remains to be developed in Dominica. So those are some of the constraints. And that's why the utility company, I believe they put a cap on renewables at 1 megawatt. My numbers might be wrong, maybe 1 or 1.5 megawatts. I don't think we have anywhere close to 1 megawatt of solar generation in Dominica, no wind generation in Dominica. As I said earlier, the installation at Rosalie is 300 kilowatts. That's about 33% of one meg. So we are far from that. But to answer your question, the technology is available to introduce wind and solar as a bulk power source in Dominica. But there has to be development has to continue and introducing that technology into the group. I hope I answered your question.
Thanks. All right. I think my mic is gone.
A small comment. The whole question of energy.
I'm having trouble hearing you. I apologize. I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay, could you come closer?
I want to make a few comments on the whole question of renewable energy.
I still can't.
Okay, could you come closer? Okay, all right. Okay, go ahead, talk, and then we will repeat it. Go ahead.
On the question of renewable energy, I would like to say that the push for renewable energy seems to be tied with the whole question of climate change and reduction in carbon dioxide emissions. That's what?
It's just precifying.
Someone had a question?
Okay, yes, I think the issue was the push for renewable energy seems to be tied in with the whole question of climate change. So you can just comment around that. Yeah.
Was it
Yes. We have seen a significant increase in the temperature of the ocean. A friend of mine told me that he went snorkeling over there in Champagne, not too far from where you guys are today. I wish I was over there. And he was telling me that him and his family were having a good time, and the water was really, really hot in that area. And what we have heard from folks who study that phenomena is that an increasing sea temperature is going to result in stronger hurricanes and fires, wildfires, and all of the stuff that we have been seeing happening around the world. And certainly Dominica is no stranger to weather systems. What that means for renewable energy, I sort of touched on it briefly. If we were to identify what we are spewing into the atmosphere that is causing the temperatures of the ocean to go up, Dominica, we are driving a lot of cars and buses using gasoline and diesel. We are saying that if we eliminate gasoline and diesel and power our vehicles from electricity, in other words, you don't have an internal combustion engine anymore. You have an electric motor that's spinning your tires. We will see a significant reduction in the polluting gases being released into the atmosphere. Dominica, our footprint is very small, but if you can consider that happening in large countries like China and India and the United States and Europe, which they are all pushing for 2050 for zero emission vehicles, then we can expect the sea temperature to decrease. If we Dominica as another example and we say, well, where else? What else is polluting our environment? We can say that you can see from my previous slide, about 70% of our electricity is coming from diesel. If we are able to reduce that by, let's say, 25% or 50% with the introduction of geothermal, for example, and we up the production of our electricity from solar and hydro, then we can expect a reduction in the polluting gases that's emitted into the atmosphere. And then I would say, if you say that the same thing happens in larger countries like China, India, US, etc., you can see how we would be reducing the amount of greenhouse gases and polluting gases that's being exposed into the atmosphere, expelled into the atmosphere. Therefore, we are hoping that we can arrest the increase in global temperatures and sea temperatures. So it's a very critical thing. I, for one, am a little skeptical as to whether we're going to meet that target because I think we all like to play go-go and drive big vehicles and fly around the world and, blast air conditioners in rooms that we're not presently occupying. So there's work that we all have to do, and there's a responsibility on every individual to reduce our own footprint, as small as it is, so that we can start passing on those habits to our children, and hopefully we can arrest the increase in global temperatures.
All right, thank you very much, Dexter. There's a lot more questions I believe here, but we have forgotten to take a break. So I think we can maybe finish off, or we can break and come back, but I'm not sure if you have time to hammer. So would you prefer us just continue here, or you want to come back? Let's go. All right. Oh, you want to take a break? All right, so we'll be taking a break. If there are other questions, we'll talk to you afterwards, and if there are other questions, we will come back. We might have a little time to do that. So let's take that break now. All right? Okay, thank you very much.
So Alex, Sunday, next, we're going to take that break because it's 12 now. So we need to take that break. If you're able to stick around on the other side of the break, we can probably continue again.
Thank you for staying tuned to Emu News. We are at Supreme.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to present to the public. I think this initiative is certainly going to be one for the history books, and I admire the fact that you were able to encourage us to do that. And I'm very, very honored to present to you.
So that was the speaker giving his concluding remarks. So once again, we are live at Supriya for the first ever Dominica Economic Revival Summit. You've heard presentations this morning from Mr. Latai, native of the community of Paybush, and he spoke on the blue industry. He also heard presentations from Chef Romeo. He's passionate about agriculture, the fact that all of these are not readily available. He was giving me a story earlier when he came to Dominica and wanted to prepare a meal and couldn't find some of the necessary ingredients. And he's saying that all of these we should be able to include into our agricultural production and hopefully export. And he was so kind to bring some of the seeds with him, and he is going to be donating these to the summit and see what can be done from there. So we are about to take a break. After, we should have presentations from persons involved in sports, music and culture. So we'll see how this goes. So again, from the Dominica Economic Summit, we are saying goodbye for now. We will be back shortly. Thank you.